Did you see the latest jobs report? It was a bombshell. At first, July's numbers looked weak, but then the Bureau of Labor Statistics dropped an even bigger surprise. They admitted their reports for May and June were way too optimistic. The initial story was that we added about 144,000 jobs in my end, 147,000 in June. Not amazing, but steady. Then the revisions came out. The fallout was immediate. The stock market dipped as investors got nervous about a slowing economy. The administration announced leadership changes at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, calling the numbers unreliable. And, of course, all eyes turned to the Federal Reserve. The big question is, will the Fed have to cut interest rates sooner than expected to prop up the economy? So in this video, we're going to break down what's really happening in the job market, what might be coming next, and how you can find opportunities, even when the headlines look grim. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we talk about money, investing, and the economy in a way you can actually understand. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. 2025 has already been one of the strangest years for the job market. Layoffs are climbing, and corporate bankruptcies are at their highest level since the 2008 financial crisis. So, what's going on? It's a mix of things. Higher borrowing costs, the rapid rise of AI, uncertainty around trade policies, and a slowdown after years of heavy stimulus. On the surface, the official unemployment rate still looks low. That's why you'll hear some economists claim the labor market is strong. But if you ask everyday people if it feels easy to find a good job right now, you'll get a very different answer. For many workers, pay raises have slowed, hiring has gotten tougher, and the power has shifted back to employers. Just a couple of years ago, it was the Great Resignation, and workers were calling the shots. Today, companies are being much more cautious. So, what changed? Let's look at the four main factors. First, interest rates. Remember, back in 2020, the Fed cut rates to almost zero. Businesses were desperate for staff and were throwing sign-on bonuses, big raises, and all sorts of perks at people just to get them in the door. That's what fueled the Great Resignation. Workers had all the leverage. Wage growth peaked around 2022. Then, the Fed started raising rates, and raising them again 11 times in total. Suddenly, debt got a lot more expensive. Borrowing money to expand or hire new people cost a fortune. Now, fast forward to 2025. A lot of those cheap loans that businesses took out during the pandemic are coming due. Unlike a 30-year fixed mortgage on a house, businesses usually refinance every 3 to 7 years. When they have to refinance at today's higher rates, their costs skyrocket. For many, it's a financial shock they can't handle, which leads to layoffs. The second huge factor is artificial intelligence. AI's capabilities have absolutely exploded. The tools are faster, smarter, and cheaper than ever, and companies are leaning into it hard. We're seeing AI eliminate thousands of jobs every single month. Nearly half of all companies worldwide now say they're rolling out AI in some form. This doesn't mean all jobs will disappear, but it does mean businesses can get more done with fewer people. Here's a real-world example. Just a few years ago, building a custom software application might cost you $250,000. Today, with AI assisting developers, that same project could be done for just $25,000. That's a 90% drop in cost. Imagine how a change like that impacts hiring decisions across the entire tech industry and beyond. Third, we have trade policies and tariffs. 2025 has brought a new wave of tariffs on imported goods. The long-term goal is to bring more manufacturing jobs back to the US, which could be a positive thing down the road. But in the short run, it just creates a ton of uncertainty. When businesses don't know what their costs will be next month or next year, they hit the pause button on big investments. That means fewer new factories, fewer new stores, and fewer new hires, at least until the rules of the game feel more stable. According to Forbes, we could see an uptick in manufacturing jobs if these policies settle in, but that impact will take time to materialize. And the fourth factor is the economy itself. Think back to 2020 and 2021. The government was pumping money into the economy with stimulus checks, extra unemployment benefits, and PPP loans. Money was everywhere, and spending surged. By 2023 and 2024, people kept spending, even as they racked up credit card debt. But in 2025, reality is hitting. Prices are still high, wages aren't keeping up, and many households are feeling the squeeze. Now, to be clear, we are not in a recession right now. Consumer spending is still positive, it's just growing much more slowly. But that trend is what matters. If that growth slips into negative territory, that's the official trigger for a recession. So, what does all of this mean for you? If you're looking for a job, you need to understand that the market is much tougher than it was in 2021. Big raises and flashy perks aren't just being handed out anymore. Companies are focused on being lean, efficient, and productive. That's the new reality. If you're an investor, however, an economic slowdown can actually create some incredible opportunities. Here's why. When the economy cools off, the Federal Reserve often steps in to stimulate it. That usually means cutting interest rates. And when interest rates fall, certain sectors like real estate, banks, and mortgage lenders tend to perform very well. Right now, the Fed says it wants to hold rates steady, partly because they're worried about how tariffs might affect prices. But if the job market and economic growth slowed down enough, it might be forced to cut rates sooner than planned. Plus, any leadership changes in the coming years could bring a more aggressive approach to lowering rates. By the way, I am going to be diving deep into all of this in my free live investor workshop on August 12th, 2025. I'll host it twice that day, at 10:30 a.m. Eastern and again at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We'll cover exactly how to find opportunities in this new economy, how AI is reshaping the world of investing, and what strategies actually make sense in 2025. My workshops always fill up fast, so click the link in the description to grab your spot. Here's the big picture. The U.S. is facing growing pressure from its own rising debt and higher interest payments. The government is already spending nearly $1 trillion a year just on interest. That creates ripple effects for businesses, workers, and investors alike. So, you have to ask yourself, are you preparing for what's next? Are you ready if the job market gets even tighter? And are your investments positioned to benefit from a potential rate cut? I'd love to know what you think. Is the job market still strong in your area? Or are you seeing signs that we're heading for a tougher stretch? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video gave you some clarity, do me a favor and hit that like button. Share it with a friend who needs to see this. And make sure you're subscribed for more breakdowns on money, jobs, and investing. Because trust me, this story is far from over. Thanks for watching.